On Blitz, we have Coach Ric Wallace, legendary head coach for Habersham Central. Coach, always a pleasure getting to meet up with you and talk about your soccer team a little bit. We've been doing this a while, but man, I really appreciate you letting me be here and talk about your team a little bit.
Well, thanks for being here and highlighting the work the boys have done this year.
Absolutely, and just rattle off the accolades so far: 13-2, number 7 state ranking, first region title for y'all in 5 years. What's it feel like to be able to get that region title back, and how would you sort of describe the season that you've had?
I mean, for us, it's super important. I mean, it's always, you know, every year since we've been doing this, that the goal is always to compete for the region title and you know, get into the playoffs and make a deep run. And this one's been awesome because you know, these boys, a lot of them were called upon as sophomores, maybe a year earlier than they were really ready than we had anticipated. And you know, so that sophomore year was tough for them. They weren't quite ready in all aspects, but they gained a lot of experience early on. And you know, then to see them, you know, constantly doing the things that we've asked them to do and grow and develop, you know, has been huge. And for them to get that moment is really awesome. You know, to secure it and know that they've worked so hard for, not just on the soccer field, but a lot of things that we've done, you know, to try to grow them and develop them as young men off the field.
Yeah, and I know you don't really care about the personal accomplishments you've had, but it's worth mentioning. You got 2 handfuls of region titles. You got all these amazing playoff runs and just stellar players you've coached along the way. But talk about the 1-0 win over number 2 ranked North Forsyth. They were nationally ranked in the top 25 coming on your field. From your standpoint as a coach, did nerves play at all, or you seem pretty chill on the sideline there?
No, I think. I mean, you get a little nervous right before kickoff happens, but that's happened since you were a little boy playing. You know, I mean, in terms of, you know, the game itself, we 100% believed in the things that we had done to prepare. It came at a unique time that you don't normally get in the course of the regular season. That you know, we played Gainesville and then we went right into spring break, and we had a spring break trip planned to keep the boys around, and then, you know, that gave us 7 practices to prepare for one opponent, and that's a lot like we would typically do, you know, in a state playoff run. And so, and having already seen them, you know, we knew they were a good team and they were an offensive juggernaut, and they had some really solid players across the whole board and some real dynamic attacking guys that have scored bucos of goals. It was a bit like a 2-headed monster, you know, and but we got to prepare for them, and we'd seen them one time and we felt like we could play with them, and we just had to tweak a few things. And even down there the first go around, they didn't score on us in the run of play. It was a PK goal for them down there, and then, you know, then to come down here and so essentially play that team 160 minutes and not to concede a goal in the run of play was huge.
As a coach, how tough is that to get your guys to sort of sacrifice that spring break and say, hey, this is the goal we have in mind, is to win a region title. This is what it takes. Did you have any trouble getting the buy-in from anybody, or
not this go around? I mean, they've been pretty hungry for it, and honestly, we've been talking. You know, we have breakfast meetings for the whole first semester. We meet every Wednesday morning. We meet Wednesday afternoons, and we've been talking about things and what it takes. You know, you can't just say you want something. If you want something, you got to work towards it. And it also means you're going to have to sacrifice things in order to get that. It's not just about what you say you want. Your actions will ultimately speak it. And they've, like, these seniors have also really taken over it's their locker room, their team, and you know, they've been leading the guys, and, you know, got the boys to all go on the Greenfield trip. And, you know, it's meant to be, hey, let's have some spring break, but let's stay focused on what we're after, and that allowed us to do that.
Yeah, and I bet that that probably made the difference in beating North Forsyth for sure. But where does that, if you have a ranking in your mind, or maybe just in general, winning a game like that and the way it happened and being at home, it's just so epic. Where does that sort of rank in your memory of all the great games you've coached?
Yeah, you give me chills right now talking about it, but like all the games. We've had some awesome games here and even away, you know, with a whole bunch of guys, like fantastic players. But, you know, I mean, it's certainly, you know, got to be one of the top ones, top 10 ever for sure. I could put a number on it, but, you know, it had all the feels of some classic ones we've had through the years here. You know, the boys were buzzing for it. You knew you got. The other great thing is we knew that this game was going to happen to fall back in Raider Stadium. You know, and we have a great atmosphere here. We get tremendous support, and to have that, and then to see the boys, you know, you could see their focus and all those pieces. It was just an awesome, you know, special night, and the crowd got behind them, and they continued to play, through the energy that was coming from the stadium.
Yeah, and I know it's not just about you and Owen and that narrative, but how special is it that, your senior son being part of this and being such a key player for this program? What was that like being able to accomplish that with him?
Well, it takes on a lot of different things. For number one, it's really tough to play for Dad.
Yeah.
It's always a tough thing, and sometimes he feels like he gets singled out a little bit more, and it's a tough thing to maintain. And and he's not the first son that's done it for me, and so we get to hear about those things at the dinner table, and that's tough. But he's gone through a lot in his soccer career. He's had some real highs and some really tough setbacks, and he's had to learn to deal with that. And and it's something he's always wanted. And and I told him before the game, I got a chance to have a moment with him before the game the other night, and I said, look, you were born on the day we secured our first one against Heritage in 2006, and you've had a ball at your feet your whole life, and you're kind of born for a moment like this, and go out there and help lead the team tonight, and let's make it happen. And he had a massive game that night, and was just big all over the field for us.
That's a storybook kind of thing right there. But it's not just him. You got a special senior group: Juan Lara, Xavier Lopez, Brody. You got some good guys on this team. Talk about how special the senior group is. Yeah,
those four are fantastic too. But we got MJ Lowry and then Tucker Bohannon and Jonathan Trejo. These were other guys that got called in, as sophomores that probably weren't quite ready, and they learned so much. And what's been the most important thing is the way that they've grown as like brothers and learned to truly love each other and care about each other and sacrifice and. They can come in here and they can, hear it from each other and not let it really bother them. Hey, maybe I need to listen to what they're saying. And, and when you get that kind of leadership in the locker room, the locker room really becomes their locker room and the teams feeds off of it. And, then I'm not the one having to, try to make that happen. And, and last year, we weren't necessarily all on the same page, as this particular group. And, they were part of that and they had to learn how to figure out. Yeah. They got to see when you come together, how powerful it can be when we made the run last year to get into the playoffs.
Yeah, and I love seeing the ripple effect of those things for hopefully the years to come, those guys being able to look back at that example. The offense always gets recognition because they get the stats, but 37 goals for the team, that's pretty good. You got a good offense, but 8 goals allowed on defense is phenomenal through your schedule too. What can you say about the guys on that side of the ball?
Yeah, well, one of the things we always preach is that we have to defend from front to back. Every single one of them's got to defend, and if you can't do it, you're not going to get out there. You got to commit to defend. But our defense has been anchored by Brody. He's starting his 3rd year as a center back, and then MJ's back there. And then we've been able to put some guys. What we've been able to do is really get our defensive structure where we want it, so that we don't get exposed and opened up, and we try to play in a manner that keeps that from happening, but also allows us to, get a hold of the ball and kind of dictate the play of the game. And they've been massive. Everett Rudisill's been fantastic in goal. It's his first year starting for us as a varsity keeper. I think we're at like 10 or 11 shutouts right now. And, out of those 8 goals, 4 came in one game, and then the other 4, 2 of those were penalties, and so we've only given up, 2 goals in a run of play. But it's a true team effort, from front to back to make that happen.
That's unreal. On a big win streak, like you have been most of the year. You haven't had many bumps in the road, but heading into your senior night, 7 games in a row. But what needs to happen, at no disrespect to what you guys have already accomplished, and understanding that I know you take it one game at a time, but what realistically for this team to make one of your signature Elite 8 Final Four runs, what elements do you think this team needs to maintain to do that?
It's you got to be, they wanted one of the other goals. So far they've achieved every goal that they've set for themselves, except for the let's go make a playoff run. And they've met each one of those by being committed to all the little things it takes on and off the field to do that. And I think they'll have to continue to maintain focus, and you have to understand. And they've played a playoff game too, and they know how tough those games are. And you're always going to get everybody's best shot because they're fighting to keep their season alive. And they'll approach that way. I saw that, even though on spring break and on that trip, when it was time to practice on that trip and work, it was 100% focused in on let's get the job done. And I think that's what we got to do as we prep for the first game against Douglas County here at home and do that. And then you see who you're always going to have to play some tough teams, but we play tough teams in our region. you know, and you see that, and we've been pressed for, you know, 80 minutes, and you know, you got to battle it, and you know, every game's going to be a dogfight, and you got to be up for it. And so far, you know, they have, and we'll have to continue to do that in order to do that, make that kind of run.
I have no doubt you're going to keep them laser focused, Coach, at the one game at a time, and hopefully make that deep run and just do the little things, and everything will take care of itself.
All righty.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate you being here today.
Yes, sir.
Go Raiders.